Preview.
In Germany, we have a range of traditions that seem weird to other countries. We use fireworks on New Year's Eve to scare away evil spirits of the old year. On Easter, we burn stakes to drive out winter demons. There are also a dozen of local traditions in which people disguise themselves as witches, ghosts, and demons for a variety of reasons. But few know of the background of one of the strangest rituals we have. The legend goes as follows. 1700 years ago, a burglar broke into a house of a rich man. His attempt was interrupted by a guard. On his getaway, he was badly injured and on the brink of death. At this point, his story would have ended, and his name would have been long forgotten, if it wasn't for a demon. The demon offered him a bet. If the man could break into 10 houses of the nearby village until sunrise, the demon would give him another chance, another year on Earth. But if one of the inhabitants raises the alarm, the demon would throw his soul into the hellfire. The man, fearing for his life, accepted the bet. His wounds were healed, and off he went. He found 9 houses of those inhabitants who were not at home, but as the first sun rays already gleamed over the horizon, he panicked and entered the next house on his way. He was already on the way out when the daughter of the family living there appeared in front of them. The man did not hesitate to cut her throat. Her blood colored his coat red. He returned to the demon to claim his prize, but he should have known that demons don't play fair. The blood of his innocent victim painted his clothes red until the end of time as a reminder of what he had done. And since the demon only gave him 1 additional year, the man is now doomed to gamble with the demon every year to save his soul from purgatory for another year. Since then, he roams the earth. As his story spread, people began putting their boots on the doorstep. They hoped that if the burglar knew that the inhabitants were at home, then he would not enter their house. A pair of boots to keep the man out, who gambled with a demon for his soul. Have you heard of this man? Time changes, and so do stories. Again and again over the centuries. In some versions of the story, he isn't a burglar, but a saint. In others, he's a warrior who fought the demon and won. But with every change in the story, his name also changes. But don't be fooled. Even with a different name, he's still willing to murder innocent people to remain unseen. European immigrants took his story over the Atlantic. In Germany, he is known as Saint Nicholas. In North America, he has a new name: Santa Claus. December 19th, 1974, 3:05 a.m., Bedford, Canada. It was a bitter, cold night. The fraternity of Delta Phi was dead empty and barren. The beautiful Victorian mansion for which the fraternity was held sat atop a white, glistening ground, snowflakes bellowing across the sky. The Christmas lights dancing with the trees where they were wrapped around. Inside, a cozy fire rested, with Christmas lights and garland resting upon the walls and banisters of the grand staircase in the foyer of the house. The orange glow coming from the house attracted carolers early. Now the house was silent and holy. One of these fraternity men sat in the living area alone with his thoughts. He sat next to the red and green flickering tree, with a presents lie beneath. The radio station, which was playing Silent Night, began to static until eventually cutting out. He noticed the change and got up to look. Suddenly, the phone rang in the foyer. It startled the young man with its jittery ring. It was now the only noise coming from the desolate home. He came up to the table with a leaf-colored rotary dial. It rung again, and he picked up. On the other line came breathing. Just breathing. It was dark, heavy, and disturbing. The man puzzled with fear. Who was the stranger calling at an ungodly hour? Then it screamed. A blood-curdling scream ran through the house from his phone. It was a woman now. How was it possible? The breathing was masculine, and now the scream was feminine. How could this be? The man slammed the phone onto the receiver, ending the call. He stood. That's all he could think to do. Some people believe this would be a coincidence since radio reports were stating that a dangerous person was on the loose, due to the fact the police had found a mother and a daughter slain in their home. The suspect was responsible and still out and about, possibly targeting more victims. The young man worried that this person was to blame for this call, for if it wasn't the woman's agonizing scream, he would have believed that this was just a prank. Above on the second floor, he heard creaking, but no ordinary popping of the wood, creaking as if it were footsteps. But that couldn't be right. He was alone. Everyone else was gone for the holidays. He built up some confidence and walked up the mahogany brown stairs. Each step was followed by a creak in the noiseless house. The wind howled outside, giving a twisted melody of whistles. He came to the second floor, crossing the quarter space landing up top. And up a smaller flight. The second floor consisted of 3 corridors, creating an S shape. There on both sides lay doors leading to the rooms of the men. The corridor was dark, however, was only penetrated with light by the Christmas lights along the doors. The creaking of the floor whispered through one of the doors. He came to the end of the hall and got on his knees to see under some of the doors. Under each door had a small 1-inch crack to see into the rooms. Another sharp creak echoed down the other hall. He shivered with fear when a door adjacent to him slowly opened. In the 2-inch crack that he could see, an eye peered through the blackness. Then the breathing began again. He recognized that breath. Suddenly, a psychotic wail bellowed through the halls. His feet galvanized him. Whipping across the doors, he ran down to the main foyer. Behind him, the screams get louder as footsteps ran towards him. As he got to the downstairs entrance, the door jammed. "Why won't you open?" the man thought. The footsteps ran down the stairs. He began to dash for the back entrance, which is behind the dining area in the opposite room of the foyer. However, a hand shot out towards him. The nails of his hand scraped against the young man, embedding a blood-dripping scratch across his face. His head, now being dragged by the hand, slammed into the banister along the stairs, and his feet fell from under him, with the body slamming onto the floor. The screams were now caroling along the corridors. He swept off the floor and ran to the garage area behind the staircase. He came to the back door and rushed out. The cold wind blew into his face, his feet pounding into the snow. He rushed down to a near house and pounded on the door. The neighbor had called the police. As the young man fearfully recalled the horrifying events that just occurred, the young man was pale, blood dripping down from his face. The neighbor comforted the young man. Music came in and out through the home, as it coincided with the police sirens wailing through the sleepy town of Bedford. The police came and checked the house and the grounds, yet they found nothing at all. Nothing but an empty house. One of the officers agreed to stay while the young man rested in the living area. The house was quiet once again, with just the winds howling outside. Nothing but an empty house with a sleeping soul, still questioning if he or she still resides in there with him. Up above on the second floor, the creaking of the wooden floor whispered through the halls.